Good evening everyone. Welcome to the News Today edition of 28th of May. My name is Anuj and I will be taking today's session. In today's session, we will be covering 5 main news and 9 quick update. There is no place or personality in news for today. In the first main news, we will be covering about the public distribution system as Cabinet have approved SARTHAK-PDS scheme to modernize the public distribution system. Then the next news is about the special intensive revision as the Supreme Court has upheld the Election Commission's power to conduct the special intensive revision of electoral roll. The third news is about water budgeting as India's water budgeting initiatives have enhanced the groundwater level, making 1100 villages drought free. Then the fourth news is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code that have completed 10 years of implementation. And the last main news is about the National Health Account estimates for India 2022-23. So these are the main news for today, and with the main news we discuss the PYQ both from the prelims as well as from the mains perspective. After that we will be briefly going through the quick update, and this is the brief about today's session. So let us start the session with the first main news for today. So the first main news, as you can see on the board, is about the public distribution system. So the context for this news is that the Cabinet have approved SARTHAK-PDS scheme to modernize the public distribution system. In this news, we will be discussing about public distribution system, issues with the public distribution system, and what is this SARTHAK-PDS scheme. Okay, and it is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about public distribution system, objective, functioning, limitation, and revamping. With this, let us deep dive into this news and understand it in detail. First of all, let us understand the development. We have already discussed the context of this news. The development is that the scheme for assistance in ration transport and handling income with the automation in PDS, that is in the short known as SARTHAK-PDS, integrate two schemes, two already existing scheme. These two schemes are being integrated with this SARTHAK-PDS scheme, and these two schemes are, one of which is assistance to state agencies for intra-state movement of food grains and the FPS dealers margin under NFSA. We will be understanding about NFSA Act of 2013 later in this news. Second scheme is scheme for modernization and reforms through technology in PDS. Let us briefly understand a brief background of PDS. Under PDS, the food grains and sometimes other essential materials is provided to the citizens, and that can also include kerosene. And in some state, the other food grains are also given, such as cereals. And if you ask your parents if they belong to the rural background, kerosene used to be provided at the PDS shops, because at that time electricity was not that continuous in the village area. That's why the villagers used to use kerosene for burning or for lantern, for the light. Okay. And why this PDS system is required? Because very high number of Indian citizens are poor and they cannot afford food grains to survive. It was started after the independence in the 1950s only. There were some schemes before the independence as well where the food grains was provided, but after the independence it became a universal scheme. That means it was provided to everyone. Then in the year 1997, the government said that we cannot provide food grains to every citizen of India. That's why there was a revampation in the PDS system, and there was targeted PDS system. So it basically targeted the people who are very poor. Now let us move forward and understand the complete public distribution system in detail. Under this, the NFSA Act of 2013 is very important. Presently, under the NFSA Act, the food grains are provided. So under this act, there are two type of categories. One is Antyodaya Anna Yojana. They are the poorest of poor. And the second one is priority household. For Antyodaya Anna Yojana families, 35 kgs per family per month is provided. And for the priority household, it is 25 kg per family per month. And it is also given that they provide 5 kgs of food grains per person per month. Both the statements are correct. That the 5 kgs of food grains per person per month is also correct, and 25 kgs per family per month for the priority household. Both statements are correct. Now let us understand the complete mechanism of PDS and what is the role of central government and what is the role of the state government. First of all, from where the food grains can be taken? They can be taken from the farmers. So central government through FCI procure the food grains from the farmers at MSP. So procurement is done by the central government through FCI at MSP. Then it distribute it to the various state government at the central issue price. Then it is the responsibility of the state government to distribute within the state and take it to the fair price shop where the beneficiaries can take the food grains or other material which are provided by that state. And state also identified the beneficiaries. Okay, so that is the role of the central and the state government. Now let us understand it. So first ministry, it is under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, and it is operated jointly by the central government and by the state government. What is the function of the central government? That it procure, store, transport and bulk allocation of the food grains to the state government. Then what is the responsibility of the state government? It is basically related to the operational responsibility that include the identification of the eligible families, issuing of the ration cards and the supervision of the fair price shops. And if there is a question or there is a statement in the prelims examination that food subsidy is the largest subsidy in India, that would be a correct statement when we talk about the central government. And the second highest subsidy is the fertilizer subsidy, but at the first place it is the food subsidy. Okay, now let us move forward and understand about the issues related to the PDS. So first of all, there is problem with the food distribution, like failure of the POS machines, because mostly the mechanism involve the technology that can fail. Then there is targeting error as well, as some eligible families are excluded and some ineligible families are included under the PDS system. Then there is leakage and diversion as well, both at the center and at the state level. So when there is lot of buffer, there is chances of leakage as well as diversion to the normal market. Then there is the issue of rising subsidy as well. Okay, as we have discussed in the last slide, that the food subsidy is the largest component of the subsidy of the central government. Then lastly, there is irregular supply. That is, there is inconsistent food availability and the quality of that food grain is not that great. Okay, you might have also read about WTO peace clause, where at the WTO, many developed countries are saying that the subsidy provided by the Indian government by procuring the food grains from the farmers at MSP is very high, whereas our government is very firm that we will provide that subsidy because that is essential for our food security as well as for our farmers. So this issue is under the WTO peace clause. That means there is no permanent solution for that, and we can continue to provide the subsidy to the farmers. Now let us move forward and understand about the SARTHAK-PDS, what it is and what are the components under this. First of all, the duration is up to 31st March of 2031. That coincide with the 16th Finance Commission cycle, and the outlay is 25,530 crore rupees for the 5 years, and it cover around 8135 crore NFSA beneficiaries. And what are its key features? So basically its key features are related to the technologically upgradation, so that there will be better accountability as well as better transparency. So it include unified national database, AI enabled analytic dashboard and automated grievance redressal system. Then it also include the standardized digital processes and ISO certified protocol to improve the transparency. So basically they are talking about transparency and the accountability. And if you know and you want to read further about FCI, please read about the recommendation of Santha-Kumar committee. Okay. And what is the aim of SARTHAK-PDS? So it provides financial support for intrastate transport and handling while creating a unified, citizen-centric and interoperable PDS to improve the last mile delivery and reduce the leakage in the overall PDS system. So with this, we have completed this news. Now let us discuss the PYQs. First, from the prelims examination. So first PYQ is from the year 2019. So it was the 79th question on the prelims paper, which is available on the UPSC site. So question is, the economic cost of food grains to the Food Corporation of India is minimum support price and bonus, if any, paid to the farmers plus. Okay. So options are A, transportation cost only, B, interest cost only, C, procurement incidentals and distribution cost, and D, the procurement incidental and charges for go down. So basically the cost for the Food Corporation of India include the minimum support price plus the procurement incidental, such as the baggage required or the labored fees paid to procure the food grains, and also the distribution cost. Okay, the petrol used or the products used to distribute the food grains, that is the food, price taken care by the Food Corporation of India. That's why the answer would be C, procurement incidental and the distribution cost. Now one more question from the year 2018, and the question is related to National Food Security Act of 2013. Question is, with reference to the provisions made under the National Food Security Act 2013, consider the following statement. Statement 1, the families coming under the category of below poverty line only are eligible to receive the subsidized food grains. Okay, we have seen that almost 2/3 Indian are eligible under National Food Security Act of 2013, that include 50% people of the urban area and around 75% of people in the rural areas. Okay. Second, the eldest woman in the household of age 18 or above shall be the head of the household for the purpose of assurance of the ration card. It is a correct statement. Then third, the pregnant woman and lactating mother are entitled to take home ration of 1600 calories per day during pregnancy and for 6 months thereafter. Actually, it is 600 calories. Note the 1600. So, answer would be B2 only. Okay. Now, let us discuss one more PYQ from the mains examination of the year 2022. So, it is a direct question related to the public distribution system. The question is, what are the major challenges of public distribution system in India and how can it be made more effective and transparent? First of all, whenever there is a question, please try to understand the question and frame the question, that introduction, body and conclusion. In introduction, you can write about the PDS and its need. In the body, you have to write about the challenges of the public distribution system in India that we have discussed in the news, and then you have to provide with the solution that how it can be made more effective and transparent, and then you can conclude your answer accordingly. So, with this we have completed the first main news. Now, let us move to the second main news. Second main news is about the special intensive revision of the electoral roll, and the context is that the Supreme Court has upheld or uphold the Election Commission's power to conduct the special intensive revision of the electoral roll. So, this is the context. In this, we will be discussing about the key highlights of the judgment and what is this special intensive revision of the electoral roll. It is related to paper 2, where syllabus talks about functions and responsibilities of various constitutional body, and here the constitutional body is the Election Commission of India. Let us discuss this news in detail. First of all, the development. So, the development is that the court in ADR versus ECI case 2025 held that the Election Commission has the power to conduct the SIR under Article 324 of the Constitution, read with the Representation of People Act 1950 and its rule of 1960. Let us first understand what was the issue. So, Election Commission of India said that we want to increase the transparency in the electoral roll or make it more clear so that there is no duplication or other type of effect which can hamper the election. And it started with the state of Bihar, and it also conducted in other states such as West Bengal, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. But some people have said that this is a backdoor to check the citizenship of various people. So, for that the case was filed in the Supreme Court and there is ruling regarding this case. Let us first understand about the SIR, the Special Intensive Revision, what it is. So, it refers to a large scale intensive revision of electoral roll by the Election Commission of India under its constitutional and the statutory power. So, they have said that if citizens were enrolled in the 2003 electoral roll, there is no need to provide other identification certificate. But if someone was not there in the electoral roll of 2003, then he or she should provide a certificate that include 11 certificate. In out of those 11, any one can be provided, and here in these 11 certificate, Aadhaar was not included. Aadhaar card, as Aadhaar card is for identity and not a proof for the citizenship. So there was various certificate under this 11 certificates, such as birth certificate or the certificate for the 10th passing marks, but the Aadhaar was not there. Okay. And what are the legal and the constitutional framework? First of all, the Article 324, under which the Election Commission of India is established. Under that, one grants the ECI superintendence, direction and control of the election to the Parliament and the state legislature. They also supervise the election of the President and the Vice President. Whereas, when it comes to the election of the local bodies such as municipalities and panchayat, they are taken care by the State Election Commission. Now, Representation of People Act of 1950. So basically there are two acts. One is Representation of People Act of 1950 and another one is Representation of People Act 1951. So the 1950 Act look after the various provision before the election that include the electoral roll as well, whereas the 1951 Act looked after the process during the election and after the election. Please be very clear about the Representation of the People Act of 1950 and 1951. So the Representation of the People Act 1950 provide the legal framework to the Election Commission of India, that specifically the section 21(3) empowers the Election Commission of India to order the special revision of the electoral roll, and section 16 disqualifies a non-citizen from being enrolled in the electoral roll. So basically it means that non-citizens cannot participate in the election process of India. Then the Registration of Electoral Rolls 1960. It specifies procedure for enrollment, revision and other provision, specifically the rule number 21A. So these were the legal and the constitutional framework. Now let us discuss the key highlight of the Supreme Court judgment. First of all, the Supreme Court said that SIR satisfies the three requirements of proportionality. So basically it passes the test of proportionality. What is this mean? What is the meaning of this proportionality or test of proportionality? Suppose there is cheating going on in the exam. So there can be orders from the school administration that there will be checking of the student before entering to the exam. That comes under the justificable part of proportionality. Suppose the school order that no one is allowed to bring mobile phone or other electronic material throughout the year, that can be against the test of proportionality. So basically, if government is restricting the rights of the citizen to achieve something, they should be justifiable. That comes under the test of proportionality. So Supreme Court is saying that it satisfies the three requirements of proportionality. First, it fulfills the legitimate purpose. So the purpose of the SIR is to maintain a credible electoral process through the accuracy of the electoral roll, and that is necessary for free and fair election. That's why it fulfills the legitimate purpose. Second, it means to pursue are not excessive. That means the citizens are provided with enough support so that they can prove their locality. So they are saying that there is structured house-to-house enumeration, verification and scrutiny by the designated officers, and there is availability of remedies with the citizens as well. And lastly, it is least restrictive option. So statewide SIR was proportionate to the scale of the problem. So Supreme Court is admitting that there was a problem. Now, Election Commission is empowered to examine the question bearing upon the citizenship, but consequences of such citizenship determination is limited. So basically Supreme Court is saying that they can ask about citizenship, but they are not the competent authority to check the citizenship. So they have to forward, if there is some issue of the citizenship, they have to forward it to the Home Ministry, which look after the citizenship under the Citizenship Act of 1955 in 4 weeks. But it affects the individual entitlement to be included in the electoral roll. So that is there under the power of Election Commission of India. And it does not, however, operate to divest the individual of claims to citizenship. That means that the citizen who is not able to prove that he is the citizen to the Election Commission of India will not be automatically declared that he is not citizen. That will be checked by the Home Ministry, because that is the competent authority under the Citizenship Act of 1955. So that is observed by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court is saying if there is some such issues, so that the Election Commission of India should forward such issues to the Home Ministry in 4 weeks. So this was all that in this news. Now let us discuss the PYQs related to this news. First of all, the PYQ, very much debated, of the year 2017. So the question is, right to vote and to be elected in India: A, the fundamental right; B, natural right; C, constitutional right; or D, the legal right. So basically it is a constitutional right under the Article 326, which talks about the adult suffrage. Then there is a question from the year 2018. The question is, consider the following statement. Statement 1: Aadhaar card cannot be used as a proof of citizenship or domicile. We have discussed this, and even Supreme Court has said that it is not a proof of citizenship or domicile, it is a proof of identity. Then second, once issued, Aadhaar number cannot be deactivated or omitted by the issuing authority. This statement is also not correct. So the answer would be D, neither 1 nor 2. So with this we have completed the second main news for today. Now let us move to the third main news. And third main news is basically about water budgeting, and the context is that the India's water budgeting initiative has enhanced the groundwater level and making around 11,000 villages drought free. So we will be discussing about the water budgeting and various government initiative. It is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about sustainable development. So let us discuss this news in detail. First of all, the development. So a assessment was conducted under the Atal Bhujal Yojana in 2023-24 and 2024-25. So out of 180 out of 229 block have shown measurable improvement in the groundwater level. So Atal Bhujal Yojana is a government scheme which is there in the 7 states presently. So under that, assessment was taken, and it was found out that out of 229 block, there was measurable improvement in 180 blocks. Let us first understand about issue of water in India. Okay, we have around 4% of the fresh water of the globe, whereas our population is around 17.56 of the global population, and our livestock is around 11.6 of the world livestock, so that we require a lot of water. And more than 1/4 of the groundwater of the world is taken by the India. That means we take out around 1/4 of the groundwater of the world for various purposes, and in that around 80 to 90% of that water is used for agriculture, and 7 to 9% is used for the household purpose. And various committees and even the Niti Aayog has said that if we continue using the water in such pace, there will be a very harsh situation, and we can infer and we can come across water scarcity at very large level. Now let us move forward and understand about water budgeting. What is this water budgeting? So basically, water budgeting is looking after the inflow of the water and the outflow of the water. Okay, basically that is the meaning of the budget: revenue and expenditure, how revenue is coming and how we are doing the expenditure. That is the water budgeting. So basically it is a systematic assessment that calculate the water availability against the demand within a defined geographical unit. That can be a village, that can be a block, and that can be a watershed as well, to ensure the balanced use. So if we know about that how much water is available, how much water we are using, how much water we are wasting, that will lead to the balanced usage of the water. That is the basic meaning of water budgeting. And how it is calculated? It is calculated, first of all, inputs are calculated, and input is from the rainfall, surface inflow, and the groundwater recharge. Not the overall groundwater, but the groundwater recharge. Then against the output, that is evapotranspiration and runoff and the groundwater discharge. So that is the basic calculation: input minus the output. Then balancing demand and supply. So agriculture alignment can be better after knowing the water budgeting. So water budgeting align crop planning with local water availability, improving the productivity and reducing the risk of the water scarcity. If we know how much water is available, we will be planting our crops according to the availability of water. Then livestock integration. While we were discussing the development, we have discussed that India accounts for 12% of the global livestock. So the livestock integration is also important. So they account for rising water demand for the allied sectors such as livestock and fisheries, support diversified rural livelihood. So this was about water budgeting. Now let us discuss the various government schemes and initiative for water budgeting. First of all, that is Atal Bhujal Yojana of the 2019. So it mandate the Gram Panchayat level water budget. So water budget is taken place at the Gram Panchayat level and revives the traditional conservation system like Gokate, Bawdi, Johad and Tanka. So basic traditional conservation systems will be revived under Atal Bhujal Yojana. It is presently there in the 7 states. Second, National Water Mission. So it promotes the water budgeting as the core element of integrated water resource management. So integrated water resource management is managing the water with other resources such as land. So it focuses on integrated water resource management. Then there is Varuni app. It is developed under the Indo-German project with the Niti Aayog support. And what does this app do? So it automatically generates the block level water budget data. So there is this app, the name of the app is Varuni app. It is developed under Indo-German project and with the Niti Aayog support, and it automatically generates the water budget data at the block level. Then there are various scheme of the state governments as well, such as Mukhyamantri Jal Swalamban Abhiyan of the Rajasthan and Jal Yukt Sivar Abhiyan of the Maharashtra. Okay. Now let us move forward and discuss the PYQ related to this news. So the PYQ from the prelims examination is from the year 2023. The question is, consider the following statement. Statement 1. According to the United Nations World Water Development Report, India extracts more than a quarter of the world groundwater withdrawal each year. When we were discussing the development, we have discussed that India extracts more than 1/4 of the groundwater of the globe. That means India extracts more than the quarter of the world's groundwater withdrawal each year. That means the statement 1 is correct. Statement 2. India need to extract more than a quarter of the world's groundwater each year to satisfy the drinking water and sanitation need of almost 18% of the world population living in its territory. Okay. When we were discussing about the usage of the groundwater, we have discussed that the groundwater is mostly used for agriculture, and that amount for 80 to 90%. That means the second statement is not correct, and if second statement is not correct, then the answer will be C, that statement 1 is correct but statement 2 is incorrect. Let us discuss one more PYQ from the mains examination of the year 2025. That means the last year mains examination. The question is, examine the factor responsible for depleting groundwater in India. What are the steps taken by the government to mitigate such depletion of groundwater? So in the introduction, you can provide the data that India accounts for around 1/4 of the groundwater extraction at the world level. Then you will write about the factor which are responsible for depleting the groundwater in India, and you will support with example and data. And lastly, you will write about the step taken by the government to mitigate such depletion of the groundwater, and in that you can write about some of the initiatives that we have discussed in this news. With this, we have completed the third main news for today. Now let us move to the fourth main news. Fourth main news is about the Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Code, which have completed the 10 years of implementation. So in this news, we will be learning about this code, its success and the challenges faced by this code. It is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about changes in industrial policy and their effect on the industrial growth. Let us deep dive into this news and learn this news in detail. First of all, the development. So IBC was enacted in the year 2016 and last amended into year 2026. That means it was amended this year only. Is an umbrella legislation consolidating the Indian law relating to the reorganization and insolvency resolution of the corporate person, partnership firm and individuals. So basically, what is IBC code and why it was bought? So in the year 2016 and the previous year of the 2016, there was a large issue of NPAs, non-performing assets, and large chunk of those NPAs was with the companies which was not performing well, so that they were not able to pay back to the banks or the creditors. That's why there was increase in the non-performing assets, which was hampering the overall economy. And suppose at that time there was a company and that have come to the level of insolvency. Basically, insolvency means that liabilities are higher than the assets of a company. That is the basic meaning of insolvency. So suppose there was a company before 2016 and it resolved for, or it announced the insolvency. The bank was only able to retrieve their 26% of the money. Suppose a bank has given a company 100 rupees and that company said that I am in the state of insolvency. That means my liabilities are way higher than my assets. So at that time, before 2016, the recovery rate of the bank from such companies was only 26%. So only 26 rupees out of 100 was recovered and remaining 74 rupees were going to the trains. Okay. So that was the condition, and there was 7 laws related to insolvency and bankruptcy before the 2016. So those laws was consolidated and it was effective in bringing down the NPAs of the banks that we will be discussing in this news. So first of all, about the Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Code 2016. So the code applies to companies incorporated under the Companies Act or the limited liabilities partnership, personal guarantor or corporate debtor, partnership firms, as well as for the individuals. Let us understand the basic process under CIRP, that is Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process. Suppose there is a company that is going through the insolvency. So the creditors can go to the NCLT, that is National Company Law Tribunals, and say that this company is not paying me the money. Then that NCLT will initiate the CIRP and it will form the insolvency professional as well as the committee of creditors. Then it will look after the various resolution plan, and if it will try to revive the company and then sell off or to earn the profit. That is the complete process under the CIRP, that is Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process. Company, it is related to the companies. Okay, and there are 4 pillars of the IBC. First one is Insolvency and the Bankruptcy Board of India, that is the regulator responsible for overseeing the IPs and the IU. What are IPs? IPs are insolvency professional. They regulate the professionals who manage the corporate debtor and the resolution process. So there are various resolution processes to revive the company. So they look after the resolution process. Then there is information utilities, that is IU. These are the electronic repositories that collect and validate the financial data to provide evidence of the default. So the data become very important in reviving these companies. Then there is educating authorities, that is NCLT, educate insolvency proceeding for the companies and limited liability partnerships, and DRT, that is debt recovery tribunals for individuals and the partnerships. So these are the 4 pillars of the IBC code. Now let us discuss about the significance or the achievement of the IBC. First of all, there is decline in NPA. So bank gross NPA level falls sharply from 11.5% in FY18 to 2.3 in FY26. Please write down in the comment section what is gross NPA and how it is different from net NPA. So basically, non-performing assets are the assets where the bank is not getting the interest or basic principal for 90 days, more than 90 days. That is the basic definition of NPA. What you have to do, you have to describe or you have to define gross NPA and how gross NPA is different from net NPA in the comment section. Second, it have improved the recoveries. So IBC accounted for 52.3% of the total bank recoveries in FY25, with total recoveries that have crossed around $4.11 trillion rupees. Not dollars, it is in rupees. Then there is record PSB profit, public sector banks, that the public sector bank have reported a combined net profit of around 1.98 trillion rupees. This is the success of the IBC. Then there is shift in the control under IBC. So before IBC, even if some company was defaulting, the control was under the defaulter only, but under the IBC, the creditors take the control through the insolvency professionals. Okay, so this is the achievement, and in specific, these are the achievement under the IBC. But there are some challenges as well, and first challenge is the delay in the corporate insolvency resolution. We have talked about the corporate insolvency resolution process. So ideally that should take 330 days, but it has been reported that the process is taking up to 744 days. Then there is decreased recovery. So relative to liquidation value has reported fallen about 30%. Then there is issue of implementation as well, that is insolvency and bankruptcy fund that was provided for the original code that remain in the unoperational state. So this fund was announced for the original under the original code, but that fund is still unoperationalized. And lastly, there is technological deficits as well, and this code provide for e-courts, but there is lack of technological fluency among the various judges. So this was all about the IBC code of 2016. It has completed 10 years. That's why it become important for your examination. There is one direct PYQ related to NPA. It is not directly related to this news, and question is from the year 2017 prelims paper. Question is, which of the following statement best describe the term scheme for sustainable structuring of stress asset, which was recently in the news? A, it is a procedure for considering the ecological cost of development schemes formulated by the government. B, it is a scheme of the RBI for reworking the financial structure of big corporate entities facing the genuine difficulties. C, it is a disinvestment plan for the government regarding the central public sector undertaking. D, it is an important provision in insolvency and the bankruptcy code recently implemented by the government. So the answer here is B, that it is a scheme of RBI for reworking the financial structure of big corporate that are facing the genuine difficulties. So this was the question from the year 2017. Now let us move to the last main news, and the last main news is related to National Health Account Estimate. The context is that the Union Health Ministry have released the National Health Account Estimate for India for the year 2022-23. It is related to paper 2, where syllabus talks about issues relating to the development and management of social sectors, services relating to the health, education and other sectors. Let us discuss this news in detail. First of all, the development, the body is given, it has done this. So NHA 2023-22-23 is the 10th report, and it was started for the year 2013-14. Okay, so this is the 10th report on health expenditure estimate, which is prepared by the National Health Account Technical Secretariat under the National Health System Resource Center under Ministry of health and family welfare, and they have used the system of health account 2011 framework. And what is this system of health account framework? It is an internationally standardized framework for tracking health expenditure and the resource flows in the system. So basically health is a state subject, but you might have had this quote or read this quote that many Indians are one disease away from getting poor. So this estimate calculate the various government expenditure as well as out of pocket expenditure for the various citizens, so that there is better policy formulation and we can move in the positive direction when it comes to the health. Let us discuss the key highlights of the estimate. First of all, the government health expenditure as a share of country's GDP has grew from 1.15% to 1.43% over the period of 2013-14 to 2022-23. So from the first estimate to the 10th estimate, the government expenditure has grew from 1.15% to the 1.43%. This is the central government expenditure. But if we consider it with the state government as well, it is not crossing the 2.5% target which was there under the National Health Mission. Then expenditure on primary health care by the government has more than doubled from 0.5 lakhs crores to 1.5 lakhs crores between the first estimate to the 10th estimate. So the expenditure on the primary health care has been more than double. So there are three types of healthcare: primary healthcare, secondary healthcare, and the tertiary healthcare. Primary healthcare is the basic healthcare where you go directly for advice, and secondary healthcare, in primary healthcare even the medicines and treatment are provided for basic diseases. In the secondary healthcare there is more specialization, and in the tertiary healthcare there is further specialization. That is the division of the healthcare: primary healthcare, secondary healthcare, and the tertiary healthcare. Out of pocket expenditure dropped from 64.2% to the 43.4%, which is still high. Out of pocket expenditure means that citizens are taking expenditure on their own, from their own revenue, from their own pocket, okay, which has fallen sharply from 64% in the year 2013-14 to 43.4% in the year 2023-24. Not 23-24, 22 and 23, but still it is very high, because here we are talking about the expenditure incurred by the citizens. Then the social security expenditure on the healthcare have increased from 6% to the 9.9% from the first estimate to the 10th estimates. Okay, so these are the key findings in this estimate. Now let us move forward and understand and read about the government initiatives for the healthcare. Here we are talking about the central government initiative. First one is National Health Mission. It is of the year 2017, and it provides for accessible, affordable, quality healthcare to the rural population and especially to the vulnerable group. Then there is Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. It provides cashless health cover of 5 lakh per family per year for secondary and the tertiary care hospitalization. So basically it works like an insurance system, where if some family member has have to take the treatment in secondary and tertiary hospitals, they are provided with the 5 lakhs, that is for per family per year. Then there are Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. You might be knowing about the generic medicines. So in these soaps, generic medicines are provided at a very cheap rate, so that the out of pocket expenditure of the citizens can be reduced. Okay, with this we have completed the main news for today. Let us discuss the PYQ related to this news. The PYQ is from the year 2021 mains paper, and the question is, besides being a moral imperative of a welfare state, primary health structure is the necessary precondition for sustainable development, and you have to analyze this statement. So this was question related to the primary health care in the mains examination of 2021. So with this we have completed all the main news for today. Now let us discuss the quick update. Let us first discuss the first quick update. The first quick update is about the collegium system. And what is the context? The context is that the Supreme Court Collegium has recommended the elevation of 5 persons as judge of the Supreme Court. If you are following the newspaper continuously, you might have read that the number of judges in the Supreme Court has been increased from 34 to 38. Let us coming back to the news about the collegium system. So President appoint the judge of the Supreme Court and High Court under the Article 124 and 217. So when we talk about the criteria for a Supreme Court judge, there is no age requirement. So there is no minimum age requirement. And there is one special condition, that is a distinguished jurist can also be appointed as the judge of a Supreme Court. That provision is not there under High Court. And the judges are recommended for appointment by the collegium consisting of Chief Justice of India and 4 other senior most Supreme Court judges for the recommendation of appointment of a Supreme Court judge. And when we talk about the collegium in the High Court, it consists of Chief Justice of High Court and 2 other senior judge of the concerned High Court for recommending the appointment in that High Court. So this is in the first quick update. Now let us move to the second quick update. Second quick update is about the online gaming, and the context is that the Supreme Court has upheld the GST authorities' decision to levy the 28% GST retrospectively on online gaming platform as constitutionally valid. So there was a debate that 19% of GST should be applied on the games of skills and 28% should be applied on games of chance. But the GST authority have applied a blanket rate of 28% on online gaming. Now Supreme Court have upheld this decision as constitutionally valid. Now let us understand about the online gaming. So online gaming market have generated around 232 billion rupees in the year 2024, and last year the government enacted Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act 2025 and notified the corresponding rules for the online gaming governance. So basically last year you might have noticed various platforms such as Dream 11, Rummy, Circle and others online gaming platform where real money was involved. Government has banned them under this Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act of 2025. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the lion-tailed dusk hawker, and the context here is that it is a dragonfly and was recorded from the Namdapha National Park. And if you look at the PYQs of the prelims examination, you will notice that Namdapha National Park, which is also a tiger reserve, national park as well as the tiger reserve, it a recurring theme in the prelims examination. Here we will be understanding about the Namdapha National Park and the tiger reserve. So basically it is located in Changlang district of Arunachal Pradesh, and it is near to the trijection of India, Myanmar and China. And it comprises of catchment of Noha Diang river, which is a tributary of Brahmaputra river. And there is a tributary of this river, and that name of that river is Namdapha. on which this national park is named. Okay, so there is a river Namdapa which is a tributary of Non Dihing river, and Nong Dihing river is a tributary of Brahmaputra river. Highest point here is the park is the Dampa Bum, which is there on the Mismi Hills, and it is bordered by Kamleng Wildlife Sanctuary, Patkai Hills at the south, and the international border with the Myanmar in the east. And when it comes to the fauna, its speciality is that it consists of all 4 big cats, that is tiger, leopard, clouded leopard and snow leopard in a single protected area. Basically, there are 7 big cats and India have 5, these 4 and lion. There is cheetah that we have reintroduced, and another one is puma. Okay. Now, let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about Yamuna River, and the context is that the Supreme Court has constituted a committee under the Union Home Secretary to prepare a comprehensive plan to clean up the river Yamuna. You might have seen the various pictures of Yamuna River that showing the dirtiness of the river Yamuna. Here we will be learning about Yamuna River. First of all, it is the longest tributary of the Ganga River, and it is considered that it was once a tributary of river Ghaggar, which flows through Haryana and merge in the Thar desert. It was once a tributary of the river Ghaggar, but now it is the tributary of the Ganga River, and it is most likely to be known as Saraswati River referred in the Vedas, and its origin rises from the Yamunotri glacier on the slope of the Bandarpuch massif in the Uttarakhand, and it flows through Uttarakhand and is emerging from the Uttarakhand. And many of you might think that it does not cross through Himachal Pradesh, but it also crosses to the Himachal Pradesh, a very little part, but it goes to the Himachal Pradesh, then Haryana, Delhi and Uttar Pradesh. It joins the Ganga river at the Prayagraj at the Triveni Sangam, and it is the longest river in the India which does not directly flow to the sea. And its major tributaries are Tons, which emerge from the Bandarpuch, and there is its longest tributary is Chambal River. Then there is Sindh, Betwa and Ken. Most of the tributaries of its are right bank tributaries, and the left bank tributaries include the Hindon River. Okay, with this we have completed this quick update. The next quick update is about the Central Consumer Protection Authority. So the context here is that it has initiated a regulatory action against the online sale and advertisement of hazardous chemicals, explosive substance on the digital platform, especially platform like India Mart. Okay, they have observed that various hazardous chemicals and explosive substances was available here. So in this we will be learning about this Central Consumer Protection Authority. It is established under section 10 of the Consumer Protection Act, and it is there under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, and its various functions include that it protect, promote and enforce the right of consumer as a class, and prevent violation of consumer right and prevent unfair trade practices. These are the function of CCPA. When it comes to the regulation regarding to the hazardous chemical and explosive substances, they are regulated by PESO, that is under the Ministry of Commerce and Industries. Okay, please be very clear that regulation is under the PESO, but this advertisement is looked after by the Central Consumer Protection Authority, which is under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Now the next main news. The next main news is regarding the hydrogen fuel cell. And in the year 2008 or 10, I think UPSC have asked about the products which are released after the usage of hydrogen fuel cell. Here the context is that the Indian Railways has approved the introduction of hydrogen fuel cell based train set on the Jind Sonipat section. This is the context. In this news we will be learning about the hydrogen fuel cell. So basically it is an electrochemical device that convert the chemical energy directly into the electrical energy by combining the hydrogen and oxygen. So basically it looked like a sandwich where there is a anode and there is cathode. So at the anode the hydrogen is divided into the positive ions, that is H plus, and the negative ions, that is transmitted, and there is flow of the electricity. And at the cathode the hydrogen merge with the oxygen and it lead to the release of the water and heat. So that is the basic functioning of the hydrogen fuel cell. So mechanism: unlike the traditional internal combustion engine, fuel cell generate power without burning fuel. So basically there is transfer of the hydrogen ions behind this separator, resulting in zero harmful emission, and the only bioproducts are water and heat. That was the question in the prelims examination of UPSC in the year 2008, I think. And major type of fuel cells include the proton exchange membrane, solid oxide fuel cell, and alkaline fuel cell. These are the other major type of fuel cell. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the queen pineapple, and the context is that the pineapple launched for the promotion of GI tagged queen pineapple. So there is Mission Queen pineapple that has been launched for promoting the GI tagged queen pineapple. So queen pineapple is a very famous queen pineapple which is known for its high juice content. That's why it is little bit costly. And pineapple are mostly grown in the northeastern India as well as in some states such as Kerala and Karnataka. So here we will be first discussing about Mission Queen pineapple and then about pineapples. So Mission Queen pineapple is under Ministry of Development for Northeastern region with the Tripura government, and timeline is for 3 years, and objective is to integrate the farmer across the pineapple value chain for production to the export. There is high demand for the pineapple in the India as well as outside India. Now let us discuss about the pineapple. First of all, they are native to tropical and the subtropical America, the tropical climate and the subtropical climate of the Americas. Then distribution: it was introduced globally by the Portuguese during the 16th century. So it is not native to India. It was introduced by the Portuguese in the India, and its major producer are Costa Rica, Brazil, China, India. India is the 5th largest producer of the pineapple, and its fruit type, basically it is botanically classified as multiple fruits. That means various flowers at a place leads to this fruit. You can see the shape of the pineapple. It looks like a bulges on the various part. Now let us move to the next news. The next news is about the International Criminal Court. And the context here is that the Hungary parliamentary have approved the continued membership in the International Criminal Court. So here you should be very clear that this is different from the International Court of Justice. That is there under the UN, but it is not there under the UN. Its headquarters is in Hague, Netherlands, whereas the headquarters of International Court of Justice headquarters is also there in Hague only, and its origin is founded by the Rome Statute, which was adopted in the year 1998 and entered into the force of 2002 as the world first permanent International Criminal Court, and its jurisdiction include investigation, prosecution and try individual, not the groups or state, whereas the International Court of Justice jurisdiction includes the states and not the individuals. And they here their investigation, prosecution and individual triation is related to the the individuals who are accused of committing the serious crimes, and these crimes include the genocide, crime against humanity, war crimes and crime of aggression. And its members, there are around 125 members under this, and India, Israel, US, Russia and China are not parties to it, and ICC decisions are binding. So this is about the International Criminal Court. Now let us move to the next news. The next news is about the Forest Advisory Committee. So here the context is that it has granted in principle approval for diversion of around 3,000 hectares of forest land across the several states for the key infrastructure project. So basically, if there is a diversion of the forest land for the non forest purposes, the permission is to be given by the central government, and central governments take recommendation from the Forest Advisory Committee. So here we will be learning about this committee. So it is a statutory body that has been constituted under the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, and its chairman is Director General of Forest. As we have already discussed, that its function is to recommend to move the forest land to the non-forest purposes. But the final decision is with the central government. So it plays a crucial role in evaluating the proposals for the diversion of the forest land for the non-forest purposes like mining, dam construction and road building. So with this, we have completed the discussion for today's session, and if you want to read further about the current affairs and various initiatives of Vision IAS, you can visit the digital current affairs website of us and also solve the smart quizzes there. And please solve the questions which are visible on your screen. Thank you and all the best for your preparation.